Okay, Tony, tomorrow is National Erase Self-Negativity Day, the 10th of April.
Uh,
So I always, I always say, well, I'm not allowed to say that you fix my brain, but you do.
uh, just for a caveat with that, I do not fix anyone at
I
all.
know, but I
They
love
and
saying
I,
it.
I don't even say they fix themselves. They just guide them to. I help them to guide themselves to find what they need at that moment in time. But yeah, fixes are not quite for me the right thing with it.
No,
But
I know, but I love teasing you with it.
I love how you find all these weird days. Erasing self negativity.
Yeah, it's a gift. No, it's just a website.
But it's I don't know. I think it's one of those, I can understand why people say they want to do it, but at the same time, a lot of the time, the self negativity we do is actually just to keep us safe, keep
Mm,
us secure. So by raising that, it doesn't actually help all the time. Yes, certain things can, is if you're overdoing it, but our minds will only know, and they only know like yes or no, right and wrong things. They don't understand it unless we tell it.
mm.
So it doesn't always realize it's been negative. It just thinks that's what you want to hear in a certain situation. So to erase that won't really be right for me because sometimes we need that self negativity because it makes us question whether we're making the right decision in the first place.
But I think it's good what you're saying, like it makes us question. I think it is important that we sometimes check in with that voice and go, like, why, what is it trying to keep me safe? Like, how is
Yeah.
it trying to keep me safe, right? We, because we develop all these strategies and then the situation changes but we're still stuck in that response cycle.
Mhm.
Um, and, uh, and then sometimes you're like, oh, well, I've been doing this for so long
Mhm.
and it isn't serving me anymore. And then we can, and then we can find the different voice. But I think, but it requires a certain sort of listen. You have to listen to that voice, but you don't always have to take its advice on face value, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time we hear the voice, but we don't actually listen to the voice. We hear it. What I mean by that is we hear there's a voice there and they think negative, then we start adding bits to it, what makes it bigger. It's
Mm.
like a problem. How many times have people done that, really worked up themselves? I don't want to go to work tomorrow, or this is going to happen, I've got to do this. And they get there and nothing really happens. But all that self negativity they've had has worked them up so badly, they've not slept properly, they're nervous, they get into work and they feel apprehensive. But when the actual situation arises, it's like, why did I worry so much about that? Why did I feel that way? So it was helping you to protect yourself to a certain extent, but it's because we overthink it is the problem. So being the self negativity is can be good, can be not so good, and it depends on how we relate to it.
Yeah, overthinking. That's a particular talent of mine. Um,
I'm saying nothing. No.
yep, no, you but what I've noticed as well, like in the overthinking and you're catastrophizing is right. You hear that negativity and then you catastrophize and it becomes so
Mhm.
much bigger. And what I sometimes need to remind myself of, and that seems to help, is to call myself back to where I am right now because I'm having conversations with people and they're not fucking there for that, right? I sometimes go into a conversation with someone and I say, well, I had this conversation without you yesterday. And it's pointless because uh, you're in your bed or on your sofa. So come back to that moment because
Mhm.
you're not in the situation that your mind is being so negative about, or where you're doubting yourself. And I think because what I think happens, or at least it happens to me when I have those practice runs to conversations that I'm supposed to have, um, that all of that is projected judgment, right?
Mhm.
And then you have the conversation, and then the person isn't judging you, and you're like, wait, but it's because they're not judging you, you're judging you, right?
Yeah. And that's the important. But when I get something like that that comes to you and you ask what the problem is, well, I'm not good enough. Who tells you that? Everybody knows it. So who's everybody? Well, most people. Well, who's most people? And it always boils down to the one thing. It's that own negative self-talk they've done themselves. That's the only person that tells them they're not good enough. I can't do this. And it's saying it because you don't want to get it wrong. That's the negative part of it, is the reason you don't want to do it is in case you get it wrong. Well, what if you got it right? What would that give you then, rather than thinking about what's wrong? So as soon as that thought comes in about the self-negativity, turn it on its head and say, okay, but what will happen if I get it right? What will that give me if I get that right? And that, a lot of time, is a stronger feeling than the worry about the one if it doesn't go right. But if you get it right, how good are you going to feel? Make yourself feel that, and you just turn that around. So you're literally reframing the self-negativity in your mind, but you're not stopping it, you're not raising it, because it's brought something up for a reason. So you don't erase that, but you're actually just reframing it into something to say, actually, what if? What ifs are not always bad things? What if could be something amazing, but only if you allow that to happen.
Yeah. And sometimes if you can't, or at least for me, if I can't twist it all the way to what if I succeed, it can also be the what if something does go wrong? How can I, like, what can be a next step? How can I fix that? What will, because when we're saying like, oh, I'm going to fail at this, we're probably not going to fail at it entirely. We might not succeed 100%, but then, so what could the follow-up be? What can I do to then fix that or make it better? Or whose help do I need? Right? Like, and every time we do something, we'll do it a little bit better. We'll have learned from the experience. And I think that is maybe, we talk about learning curves a lot, or at least I do. But then, it's also my education. But I think if every time we do something and we may not reach the pinnacle of success that we had in mind, if we can then look at, okay, so what went well and what didn't go so well? And what I often add to that is, how can I use the things that went well to improve the things that didn't go so well, right? Because then we can lean into our strengths and our talents, and because we're not trying to, like you say, we're not trying to shut down the negativity, or we're not, like, there's so much of that, right? Like, only focus on your on improving your shortcomings, and know where you're. Sorry, that was unexpected. Know where your challenges are going to be. The funny thing is that there she is. I was going to say she just disappeared as she but she's not behind my head. Anyway, but sometimes I think if we can then focus on, okay, but where are our talents and how can we use those? How can we maybe change the strategy rather than completely shutting everything down, right? Listening to the negativity in the sense that we then just don't make the attempt. We don't need to do that.
No. And it's but you say about how we look at the negativity. 3 simple questions all the time. I say, 1, what still went well? And people don't understand that. Because something's negative or it goes wrong doesn't mean you can't learn from it. One simple thing you can learn is how not to do that. There's a learning from it. That's a positive thing. That's what went well. I've learned how not to do it. Okay, what things didn't go so well? So what did you do then that caused this not to work? And you're right to say that. The third simple one is, what do I need to do to make sure it improves next time? It's 3 simple ways of looking at anything that's supposed to be a negative thought or a negative situation. Look at the 3 of them and you'll find out, okay, next time it happens, I know how to deal with it. That's how we build resilience. Because with that resilience is built from these learnings and what they're doing. And I love a word. As far as I know, it came from a footballer called Ian Dowie, college players, and it was called bounce back ability. And I love the word of it because you can imagine actually, like, and I always think of it like a bungee, is bouncing back, is it just sort of, you go a certain distance where that some stops you, but you can always come back. That bounce back ability is how we deal with those situations. It's not so matter about being the negative side of it. It's to say, okay, now that it's happened, I don't want that to happen again. And how am I going to deal with that? And what am I going to make sure that it doesn't? And so next time I can improve. But always remember that thing is that the self-negativity is there to protect you and keep you safe. But it doesn't mean you have to stop at that point.